Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Industry Week webcast, Navigating the New Norm, the Importance of Optimized Operations in Uncertain Times. It is sponsored by the Raymond Corporation. My name is Adrienne Selko, and I'm Senior Editor with Industry Week. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. If at any time you are having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, simply hit the F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you have any technical difficulties during today's session, press the Help button to receive assistance in solving common issues. This webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. To submit your questions, simply type them into the Q&A window on the left side of your screen and hit the Submit button. We'll be answering as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation, but feel free to send your questions in at any time. Also be aware today's session is being recorded and will be available on the Industry Week website within the next week for you to review. You will be notified by email when the archive is available. Also, on your console, the Raymond Corporation logo is hot linked. If you want to visit their website during the webcast, you can click on the logo and a new window will open. It will not take you out of the webinar. I would now like to introduce today's speakers. We have with us today John Rosenberger, who is Director of iWarehouse Gateway and Global Telematics. He has worked with the Raymond Corporation for 10 years. Previously, he worked with an automatic electronics assembly equipment industry for 28 years, holding senior roles within engineering, product, program management, research, and development. The departments he manages with Raymond design, develop, and deliver customer-facing telematics, reporting, and analytics software applications, data science services, and fleet cost management. His responsibilities also include the management of the Internet of Things within Raymond and senior-level management direction for big data initiatives with the Toyota Material Handling Global Enterprise. We have with us Jason Fiume, who is Senior Management of Professional Services for the Raymond Corporation. He has been with Raymond for more than 5 years, and in that time has worked with customers to configure, interpret, and apply telematics data to help companies optimize operations. He is certified in Lean Six Sigma and specializes in identifying continuous improvement opportunities to assist high-level management with behavior modifications and change management strategies. And with that, John, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Adrienne, and good afternoon and good morning to some of you. Welcome to our Industry Week webinar today about navigating our new normal. Jason and I will discuss various methods to both improve your visibility into operations and provide optimization strategies that can guide you both today and during the next challenge tomorrow. Topics we will cover today include understanding our new normal. Although this COVID pandemic has caused significant disruption, it is not the first significant shock to our industries, nor will it be the last. And these shocks have lasting, permanent effects. We will review several of these events with you for perspective to our current environment. The words I hear most recently from customers and other professionals are, "Who would have thought?" Our industries are now embracing the importance of data management and analysis for insight on better ways to do business. Our digital supply networks, in other words. As demand for enhanced safety, efficiency, and automated solutions increases, more and more companies are shifting towards enhancing and, just as important, connecting their internal information systems. We still uncover way too many information silos in our companies. An all-encompassing, end-to-end business analytics strategy will touch every department of an organization to streamline processes, avoid sub-optimizing individual processes, uncover gaps or vulnerabilities, and provide the insights needed to drive profitability. And yes, profitability even in shocking times. Continuous improvement and optimization of your supply networks, policies, procedures, and business information infrastructure can occur at any time, but are especially important during the harder, more challenging times. Today's reality means a renewed focus on how to save time, space, and resources while reducing errors and, most importantly, improving customer satisfaction. Preparation is key. So we want to share some solutions and best practices that our own customers have confirmed to be beneficial before February 2020 and even during this new normal of today. And finally, Jason and I believe managers everywhere can use the effects of this current crisis to take a fresh look at these networks, processes, and information infrastructure. It is important to remember that you are not alone. While reviewing options for what's next, how to start if I not have already done so. There are partners trained and experienced with intralogistics, visualization, lean management practices who can assist you. And I strongly recommend shop around. Find one of these partners that can benefit you today and during the next challenge tomorrow. As we can see on the slide, external shocks like recessions, strikes, natural disasters typically bring about lasting changes to the markets. Right? The Great Recession, West Coast port strikes, the Fukushima nuclear reactor disaster are all good examples of shocks that brought about or accelerated market and structural change. COVID-19, like other shocks, will also bring about accelerated and lasting change. To focus in on the Great Recession first, real quick. Our market intel team members extracted an example relating to dollar stores, specifically the Dollar General. Right? Dollar General's annual reports show a nice positive change in sales during and after the Great Recession, even when compared to all retail sales figures reported through the U.S. Census Bureau over the same time period. The lasting effects of this shock was an accelerated shift towards value-conscious goods. Disposable income was reduced, so that can explain some of the shift from, say, 2009 through 2011 or 12, but this effect has lasted through 2019. The next one is the U.S. West Coast port strikes. I would say almost all of our industries have direct goods or vendor goods flowing through the West Coast ports. When the strikes occurred, we had to quickly shift supply chain, material handling resources, and other parts of our business to other parts of the country. Just how much surplus equipment do I really have on hand on the West Coast and elsewhere to reposition? Or is there an opportunity to remove older equipment because of cost per hour than it is to buy new, rented, or leased equipment? How quickly can I train a new labor workforce to my standard work within facilities on the other coasts? All these questions that needed to be answered rather quickly but accurately. Customers who already had a good baseline of data were prepared for this analysis, and these shifts in container traffic were permanent. In a different industry, say the nuclear energy industry, the Fukushima reactor disaster significantly changed an entire country's tolerance for this type of energy production. This type of change continues today in Japan. COVID-19, our current industry shock, some impacts are similar to those that we've seen in previous shocks: lower disposable income, forcing consumer buying shifts, borders, ports, supply chain portals operating at reduced capacity or closed due to federal or state regulations or labor shortages resulting from some of the new rules and regulations to remain open. And as we have seen in previous shocks, companies who built connected and continuously improve their information infrastructure have been better prepared to adjust to our COVID new normal, prepared to work with their vendors for inbound material adjustments, and prepared to work with their customers to set realistic expectations for outbound goods. The acceleration of e-commerce is no surprise to anyone on this webinar. However, its lasting impacts on warehousing and supply chain operations continue to be significant. Speed of fulfillment, diversity and size of orders, we're talking about eaches now versus pallets or cartons. Efficiency, cost effectively solving the last mile delivery. All these traits of e-commerce have changed or accelerated the operations of all of our industries. The ever-increasing SKU count. Again, this is an example from the National Beer Wholesalers Association. I personally like to subsidize that market segment from time to time, but many of you on this webinar deal with tens, thousands of SKUs, some millions, right? However, this example is not about SKU counts. It's an example of accelerated and permanent change. All of our SKU counts have gone up no matter what the industry. very, very few have gone down. And even within our COVID-19 new normal, where some consumer packaged goods, as an example, experience brand loyalty decreases and brand trimming by retail outlets due to shortages, let's face it, you were willing to buy any brand of toilet paper or hand soap that you could find. However, SKU count still went up for consumer packaged good outlets because people did not want to make multiple trips to different stores. So retailers had to carry a wider range of products and just more of them. And Jason, I believe you have more to add concerning the SKU count change.
Absolutely, John. We mentioned previously the importance of saving time and space while reducing errors, and the SKU growth plays right into that, especially as we're dealing with within our four walls of a warehouse, new operators, and sometimes maybe equipment shortage. So we're having that doing more with less mentality to meet customer expectations. And we'll dive a little deeper into some operator assist technologies that can be considered and deployed to help reduce errors and drive profitability as we're dealing with that new normal.
Very good. As you can see here, labor productivity is tapering off. Theories differ in some respects related to this topic, but many agree that the larger contributing factor to this decline is older equipment employees are using and the existing operation flows within our manufacturing warehousing facilities. We're striving to produce more and more at higher speeds, at the speeds of e-commerce, with equipment and operations that have difficulty performing at that rate. Another common factor is to ensure associates stay on task, so to meet acceptable productivity rates without overexertion. The collection and analysis of real-time equipment and data utilization can assist in this issue greatly. And we have all seen the applications of Moore's Law, the graph to the right, of continuing advancements in technology. However, this can assist us. The real-time collection and analysis of data at commonly affordable price is something that can drive and help sustain change and control over that change. Jason, you have additional information about these trends.
Absolutely, John. It's from what we're seeing with a lot of our customer base. Some of our customers are experiencing what I call a peak within a peak. We've got the unplanned pandemic-related business increases happening during the summer over some seasonal increases and now some upcoming expected holiday increases. This is requiring reliable and always-on solutions, and automation has always had that cool factor, but maybe seemed like it was out of our price point or wasn't the right time. But now with more attractive cost, customer expectations, and labor considerations, we're finding that automation is quickly becoming a need more than a want for a lot of our customers' operations, and it might be the same for you who are a part of this webinar. The question for us is, are you ready for it? And as we move through this discussion, we'll highlight various considerations and best practices to navigate this new normal. And one thing we often share with our customers is that future technologies require and enable continuous optimization. That means this is a journey, right? So there's a lot of valuable data and tools at your fingertips today that can drive the what's next for you conversation. It's essential to keep your operations up and running, especially during these times. And the Raymond Corporation, along with our network of solutions and support centers, can be a partner in that journey for sure. Now, John and I are going to share some of our experiences, some of our intralogistics solutions and best practices that's going to help optimize operations, identify a best path to automation, strengthen your workforce, and allow your business to continue to move forward. So where do we start? Data. And this is the world that I live in. We always talk about gathering and analyzing data. In my current experience delivering professional services engagement, an initial reaction often from a customer is to be defensive when I present data in current state to them because of their knowledge of the operation. Data and technology solutions provide an additional and new layer of visibility that augment that tribal knowledge and gut feel of people who are actively within that operation. The reality that we find is that things move too fast and are more interconnected today to simply rely on that gut feel. There's so many data points available within your operation that can be super valuable. So technologies like Telematics, including our iWarehouse solution, have almost become a standard within warehouse operations, and it makes it easier to gather data, collect measurements, and you can do so with less interference to your operations. Now, having data analysts or leveraging professional services teams plays into that digital network that John was mentioning. We can make that data meaningful and actionable for you and provide valuable insight into what we would call behavioral and performance-related metrics that are going to be most relevant and meaningful to the goals of your operation. If you envision your business as being evolving and dynamic and ready to respond to change, embracing data management is going to be very important. So you're going to need a solutions provider and systems that can make sure that you help provide an all-encompassing strategy with the idea that knowledge plus action is going to equal success. And that's where a lot of the change management conversation comes in. So the focus now is creating synergy to bridge the gap between the traditional, our trucks that we typically see within an operation, and warehouse technology solutions, ultimately allowing data convergence to tell the story of yours and your customer success, and ultimately an improved ownership opportunity and a reduced total cost of ownership. Another best practice that we think about within an optimize before you automate strategy is visualizing improvements with lean management. And this can affect processes and people and other physical things within your facility. Operational assessments, optimization efforts, they all begin with some type of reflection and planning, and being aware, most importantly, of understanding what problem it is that you're trying to solve. One of the first things that we often ask our customers to consider is there a documented and communicated process and standard for the operation? Lean management in general is a mindset and becomes a company culture. So it's very important to make sure your people are part of the solution to drive that continuous improvement, whether that's through Kaizen events, being able to submit improvement opportunities, getting their feedback on how your applications are working for them is going to be super valuable going forward. Now, Raymond provides a lean management system that provides tools to improve quality, reduce defects, and implement changes to improve workflows, save time and money, and really make that lean mentality be part of your ongoing culture within your facility. One of our goals ultimately is to not just help you solve your problems, but to teach you how to solve them yourself going forward. So it may be right sizing or right typing of your fleet, evaluating new technologies, and as we optimize, more considerations for labor management systems, real-time location systems, looking to make sure we're optimizing our processes, people, and plant. John, do you have more to add?
Yes, I'd like to take the last two topics on there, product conveyance and automation. And you may think, okay, it's two Raymond guys, so they're naturally going to talk about trending towards material handling forklifts. But there are processes and innovation and automation and so forth that come in many forms. You may do the processes that Jason mentioned, collect your data, apply lean management techniques, and you may determine simply that you need a better pick cart or pick carts. You know, your current shopping cart style pick carts are inexpensive, readily available, hold lots of boxes, but they don't really help you with the order breakdown and separation at the end of the run. If your analysis leads you to higher capacity things like material handling equipment, then bounce their performance against the data, the back needs that you went through the analysis to ensure your new fleet is both right sized and the right type of equipment. And it can scale with additional functions and features as your business scales. Jason will discuss examples of the right size and right type selection further on in this presentation. And as concerning automation, Jason and I firmly believe concerning the application of automation, continuous incremental improvements to specific areas of your operations based on the data you are collecting are typically less disruptive and achieve faster ROI. And the benefits from the savings achieved with each incremental improvement can sometimes partially and at times fully fund the next improvement. We've spoken to many customers and professionals as the use of automation has grown, and based on their experiences and our own with our own automation products, we believe it is preferable to spend $1 million 10 times examining and confirming the effects of each improvement and installation rather than spending $10 million one time for that more big bang effect that holds a lot of risk and potentially a lot of disruption to your facility. Automation, when properly matched and applied to a specific operation correctly, can dramatically change the way your company operates, its ability to service its customers, and increase overall corporate net profit, independent of sales and margin contributions. As we discussed with product conveyance, automation too comes in many forms. Operator assist, to semi-automated, to fully automated, powered industrial equipment, each having their own degree of integration into existing systems and infrastructure, which is very important. Remember, it's not just that piece of automation you set on your floor, it's actually how you're going to tie into all the different systems that you currently have in place to fully utilize that equipment. And using lean management techniques and data-driven intralogistic optimization, you will find those tipping points of when some form of automation is a preferred next step. I'd like to move on now to our next section, which is e-learning methods. They can assist you in labor productivity improvements and more quickly educate your diverse workforce. In this example, you can see the sheer magnitude of COVID-19's impact on the job market. Some of these jobs are returning, but many are still not and will not. However, this shock has led to many new to supply chain, warehousing, material handling, or other industries coming into our factories, our warehouses, and so forth from those industries that are struggling. So how can we educate these employees quickly and efficiently? Many progressive companies have engaged e-learning methods to accomplish this. And just to be clear, e-learning is not simply putting a manual or a guide online and requiring an employee to read it. That is not how we define e-learning within this presentation. Effective e-learning today utilizes a lean-centric design that can now accommodate multi-generational workforce. Different people learn in different ways. It is crucial to recognize that. E-learning can provide time-shifted delivery, not on an instructor schedule, and not in a single time zone schedule. It can also provide an on-demand learning capability. Learn or refresh learning when you need it, or better yet, just before you need it. If you sit in class and learn a task or a process 3 months before you actually apply it, it's difficult to retain those details. E-learning tools can be re-executed again and again, both using extrinsic and intrinsic feedback techniques to reinforce the training. And you can get it on demand any time of the day. And finally, e-learning utilizes an application of gaming or gamification, right? It draws people in to use the tools. We've seen for some of the tools that we have and others, what was the fastest and safest time through a VR training course? Who was the quickest to identify the 5 environment, health, or safety issues as you see a series of videos or pictures in the images? It becomes something that draws the people in to use the education when they need it before they have to utilize it in the field. And speaking of VR-based training, Jason will now provide some additional information on this tool and learning method.
Thank you, John. And as John mentioned, what's very attractive about this type of technology is the fact that it is on demand, reliable, it's available for that varying educational part of our workforce, and it is real-time results. So you get feedback right away from a system like the virtual reality system. So we have, Raymond, a virtual reality system that we deem as an engaging tool. It can help from simplifying the hiring process, onboarding experiences, and developing employees for enhanced performance and efficiency. So we've seen during this time period a big increase in companies having interest in this type of technology. We've frequently been approached by hiring agencies as well as they're looking to train a workforce that would be ready for some of these opportunities in our industry. So as customers are looking to streamline onboarding processes, get new associates up to speed and more proficient in operating equipment, we're able to put users in a simulated environment on a real Raymond truck that's stationary but provides the hand-eye coordination and movements that will provide that more immersive and engaging experience, ultimately helping them develop better skills and build confidence. One thing that we've heard from a lot of our folks that have used the VR simulator is that it's also increased retention. So when they've got that scenario of not just sitting in a classroom and trying to consume all this data and information that's being presented to them, they're getting real hands-on experience that's consistent, repeatable, on demand, and again, maintains that retention. And by leveraging existing facility data, whether it's through a telematics, a labor management, or a WMS system, we can also use this type of technology to reinforce desired behaviors. So if we have folks who are frequent impact offenders or are having trouble acquiring the wire in a wire guidance scenario, we can use the VR in some of those courses that can be configured to reinforce some of those desired behaviors. One of the things that we move forward towards now is we have associates hired, we have them trained, but how can we continue supporting and developing that workforce with technology? And that's where operator assist solutions and technologies come in. So I'd like to review a few options that can mitigate risk and ultimately help us enhance performance and efficiency. So we have a few examples of Raymond related solutions, picking solutions specifically on screen for you to view right now. The first one is in-aisle detection. In-aisle detection system for in-aisle applications. So it's meant to increase an operator's awareness of their surroundings. As we've discussed, there can be a lot of distractions and things to think about for new operators, especially with fast pick requirements. So the in-aisle detection system can alert operators when there are other objects detected in their truck's path, and it brings their truck to a controlled stop when an object is detected. So this technology helps reinforce best practices while also reducing the chance of impacts within a facility. The zoning and positioning option provides what we would call reliable and repeatable truck operations, allowing the trucks to adapt to unique features and conditions within your facilities. So this might be, as you can tell by the graph, some varying ceiling considerations, end of aisle behaviors, and it allows operators to focus on their surroundings and task at hand, and the system will ultimately guide the truck on the most optimized path to their next pick location. Again, all about efficiency and making sure we're getting people to the place they want to be to make an accurate pick. And we also see a lot of improvement in accurate picks with our pick-to-pallet LED light system. We actually had a customer report back that they had experienced a 20% productivity increase and reduced their pick error by 35% by deploying our pick-to-pallet system. So this system is designed to help reduce those errors by using LED light technology that visually reinforces product placement for order fulfillment, especially in batch picking applications. So ultimately, we're looking to help maximize that operator's productivity by directing them to the desired customer pallet, and takes a lot of the guessing game out of it, enabling them to quickly move to the next pick, and again, increases their confidence in a lot of those scenarios.
Thank you, Jason. So we're getting close to the end of the formal presentation. So in closing, it's important to remember that you are not alone while reviewing these options and gathering and analyzing data and applying these techniques like automation. Lean management techniques, e-learning, instilling confidence in technology, as Jason just described. There are partners trained and experienced with intralogistics solutions who can help you optimize people, process, your facilities at a satisfactory price and ROI. But shop around. There's many different providers out there, and it's good to find one that best fits your needs. Leverage system integrators to cost effectively apply new technologies. Find these partners that will benefit you today and during the next challenge tomorrow. Jason, any final words of advice?
We often say that you can't improve what you don't measure. So I think a lot of what I would recommend is similar to the work that we're doing on a regular basis to really identify and analyze current and existing data sets. John mentioned before the opportunities for right sizing and right typing of fleets. And even though I am employed by a manufacturer of forklifts, I often end up telling our customers that they probably have too much equipment on their within their facility. So being able to use the data to identify true utilization, be proactive about scheduling planned maintenance, and understanding where we've got low or underutilized pieces of equipment is super beneficial. So step one is, how do we best level that usage and optimize what we have currently in our operation? And through data, we've proven several times that we can help reduce a fleet. And if it's not fleet reduction, it may be right typing that fleet to make sure we've got the right equipment to do the jobs and processes necessary to make that facility efficient, productive, and profitable. I can't stress enough the importance of planning and understanding the problem you're trying to solve in this understanding of what's next for you. That's going to help guide the path. If it's people, if it's labor management, is it processes, lean management? Is it the plant considerations with equipment and racking? It's all about finding what's going to work for you and understanding the problem you're trying to solve to guide the path. My team helps provide solutions to train, inform, measure, and optimize, and then we put it all on repeat to continuously improve. Raymond has often looked at making sure that we're driving continuous improvements to help understand that your customer and your operations are optimized to the best of its ability. Connect data on everything that you can now so that we can make sure that we're leveraging all these solutions that are available. And as John indicated before, we often find that increased performance through this journey often self-funds the next application that we're looking to move into. I just wanted to point out quickly too that we've talked about a lot of things here in some quick tips, and Raymond Corporation has identified other quick tips and best practices that we have accumulated up on our website. They reflect current trends, things that we're seeing in the industry, and often are industry specific in some cases that look at battery and power management. So these are great little learning tools as well to help understand whether or not you are moving in the right direction. And again, I can't stress enough the importance of spending time to plan and have conversations and leverage those relationships that John mentioned to really look for that solutions partner through all of this. So with that, I will turn it back to Adrienne.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. A few of you have already submitted questions, so we'll start. But while our presenters are answering the questions, we'd like to ask you to please take a moment to complete the feedback form, which you'll find on the left side of the lower toolbar. Our first question is, how do you determine the first thing an organization should invest in? John, do you want to start? And then Jason, you can add when he's done.
Yes, and I think the first way to do it is we actually have a little phrase for that. It's connect, optimize, and automate. And a lot of times you'll see it optimize, connect, and automate. What you want to do first is look at your current operations, right? As Jason said very astutely, you can't optimize what you don't measure. So what measurements do you currently have in place, right? And then what are your KPIs for the next year, right? You have, I have to reduce product damage by 5%. As we talked about previously in the presentation, I have to inherit 10,000 or 100,000 more SKUs because I just assimilated another business and so forth. What's your important factors that you're going to be measured by in this coming year? And then where's your baseline of data? And then use that to find the gaps, right? What you're looking for is gaps. So if I have to cut my product damage by 5%, what things I want to measure? Well, it's I know that there's utilization of equipment. I'm trying to measure that. That's good. But what's important to me right now maybe is the pre-operation checklists. Make sure my equipment's up and running and make sure that it's operating properly, and maybe impacts and so forth. So if my automated lift truck or conveyor system or something reports an impact or an error, what's occurring in that? Maybe those are the two metrics I want to look at first because my KPI says I have to reduce product damage by 5%. Jason?
I definitely agree with all of that. And I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, John, with automation considerations is not to just jump to a one-size-fits-all solution. That's where a lot of the planning and defining of strategies and current processes in place become super beneficial, because we've had some customers who jumped to automation because they thought it was the cool and right thing to do, but then realized that they went too big and it ended up being an unattainable ROI, and it ended up not being a solution that really met their needs. So they took a step backwards and leveraged some of the existing data they had, and then had a more targeted approach, which ultimately saved them money and then let them launch new solutions and technologies down the road. So I think that'll be a big part of, how do you figure out what to invest in, is asking those questions, using that existing data, and again, involving the people that are part of your operations in the ongoing solution.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What's the difference between automated and semi-automated? John?
Semi-automated is, for example, you can have a piece of automated equipment, let's say a lift truck, that can be put into automated mode, where it actually is running around with a set path or using vision guidance around there, and there's no operator on it. Then you have semi-automated mode, where it's actually running with an operator on it, because the certain task or something is too difficult for that to do through automation, or it's a very tight space that I haven't completely changed my infrastructure yet, so I have to guide that particular vehicle through there to get to the next section of conveyors that I need to get to, or so forth, and then it can operate in that area. That's an example of semi-automated and automated. Another is semi-automated a lot of times can be considered operator assist. So as Jason pointed out, the pick to light or pick to pallet feature that we have and so forth, some people consider that as a form of automation, semi-automated, because I am helping the operator for pick accuracy. The lift truck still is being moved by the person, but I'm helping them to put the right cart that they picked into the right bin. Jason?
That's essentially what I was going to indicate, John, is it's not just the automated with the operator on or not on, but some of those operator assists as well, where there's some component of automation that takes the guesswork, I would say, out of the process for the operator. So there's that good mix sometimes of both automated and semi-automated solutions that could define what's going to be successful to you. And that's where those conversations, those scoping exercises, and working with your solutions partner is really going to determine which option is best for your operation.
Okay, next question. Is there such a thing as gathering too much information? John?
Definitely, but I would qualify that highly. You gather as much information as you can, but if you try to act on all of that at one time, it's overload. Because you're gathering everything. Even if you look at the basic telematics system, right? You're gathering access control information, equipment utilization, pre-operation checklists, impacts, fault codes that could be coming from the vehicle, and so forth, which is great. Collect as much as you want, because many times if you actually go and look at some of the more advanced analytics, or if you even start getting into predictive things, some of the first things that people like Jason, have to look for is, what's the past 10 years worth of data? Well, if you haven't started collecting anything, you now have 10 years to catch up on, right? So collect everything you can, but use the pieces that are important to you for those KPIs that we mentioned earlier of what you're trying to solve now. You can't boil that ocean, pick a colorful one, whichever one you want to choose. Pick what's important to you now and focus on the data that can help you with that. You have it all other collected. This space is cheap. You can actually put it in the cloud now if you want. So collect as much as you can. Then when you get to the next thing that's a KPI, say the following year or your 5-year initiative, then you can look back to see, okay, I have all of this data already collected, and I want this piece, and this piece. You already have it there.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How does labor management play into the optimization of a facility during a time when hiring employees is so difficult? John?
Yeah, labor management actually is a key thing, and I'll do a short part of this because Jason is actually a very good expert in this topic as well. Many customers looking at this. With labor management, one thing you have reduced workforce, right? And now with this new COVID environment, you have to spread that workforce out over multiple shifts, right? You have social distancing in your factories. You can't have too many people in there at one time, or there's some other restriction that you have in there. So labor management, one thing, ensures that you have the personnel on task, right? But one advantage with some of the labor management systems, especially one that Raymond does offer, is that it's not just based solely on labor standard metrics, right? You can if you augment that with telematics, you can actually get into the labor standards and self-change those as you spread those particular things out. So now my conveyors are out longer, my racking systems maybe change a little bit as far as spacing in those and so forth. So now if I had a labor standard that was actually this, I can run my vehicles through that route, that new route, check for the new labor standard and make sure that it's attainable, and then people are governed by that. So you can actually get a better idea of your current labor, because it may be a little thinner now, or it may be repurposed many different times because you're working on a smaller workforce. Jason?
That's exactly right, John. And I think a lot of it with considerations for labor management and the systems in general is finding something that's flexible and scalable with your operation. It's one of those scenarios where traditionally you might see that it's a long process, an expensive process, but the labor management system offered by Raymond is really a data-centric model that looks at your system's data from warehouse management systems to time clocks, with the idea that it's tying all of those data systems together to get one total picture of employee and operational performance. And that means that we're driving standards based on what we're truly seeing from your application. So we often talk, and John mentioned it, that we often create standards based on a single metric. But if you can leverage a system that allows for multi-metric considerations, from how equipment was used to quality scores to impacts, that factors in whether it was a pallet in each, a case, and the distance traveled to perform those functions, it really allows to track labor productivity. And we start labor management with kind of a lean management consideration. How do I eliminate wasted time? How to make sure that we're spending a lot more time on our value adding and money creating tasks and driving throughput while reducing errors in those scenarios. So especially in 3PL considerations, especially in various industries that are on high demand to get things out the door, we want to make sure that we're doing it quickly, efficiently, and understand what our cost to serve is for those customers.
Okay, thank you. The next question, what's the first type of automation that operations typically invest in? John?
I would say, as far as the automation goes, it's more conveyance of the product. So you have an established process. The process is fine, but you still have in your facility some parts of it that are still kind of separated. So you need some type of conveyance, but you need it faster than what you have now. Even if you want to palletize things or so forth and move them to the next section, that's still inefficient. So now you start looking at, okay, I need to increase speed in that particular area. First thing, what is the infrastructure of my facilities right now? Because remember, automation, especially when you have some vehicles here involved, the turning radiuses are slightly different than what a human can do on a lift truck. So when you look at that, one thing to look at is your infrastructure, and that's where the partners come in to do that. And then when you have that, what type of automation do I need? If I have a vision guided system, I don't need to change a large section of infrastructure now put the guidance system, whether it's targets or something in the ceiling or wires or so forth in the floor. I can have a better adjustable environment, because my next step then is to take this piece of facility and change it around. So now I'd have to rip everything I just put in out and go after that. So I see that the first things are more automation as far as conveyance goes. If you look at semi-automated vehicles or semi-automated technologies, definitely the pick accuracy comes into play, and the features that Jason talked about earlier, as far as the in-aisle detection systems and so forth. A lot of interest in that, and that's what the people go after too, because you're making the operator more efficient by going directly to the spot that they're supposed to pick, rather than them having to decide and maneuver the truck there manually. So you're increasing the conveyance of the product again in that. But also then you're improving all the other attributes of that, which safety comes into play and so forth, which is always important. Jason?
I would echo that statement. I think conveyance ends up being one of the first levels of automation, and once we get that infrastructure configured, leverage some of the data we have, we often find via telematics data where we see pieces of equipment that are used for long horizontal runs, very little traffic, but that's a repeatable, everyday expected occurrence. And sometimes those can be the first things that we scope as being benefited by a automated vehicle that can be both leveraged to work on its own, but also with an operator using it as well. So I think the conveyance, the automated vehicles, and then automated processes in general, especially with those operator assist technologies, are where we're seeing a lot of our customers go. I think, again, the stress that I would put on here is scoping out what it is that you're trying to solve and make sure that it fits in the environment that you see your operation reflecting. So as we have those increases in that need for agility and handling new SKUs and new products and potentially new tenants within our facilities, making sure that it's repeatable and replaceable. And that's where some of these infrastructure-free opportunities like the Raymond Courier really comes into play, because there's a lot less expenditure related to not requiring that infrastructure, so it can be nimble to change routes as items within your operation change as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to thank today's speakers, John Rosenberger and Jason Fiume, and our sponsor, the Raymond Corporation. On behalf of Industry Week, have a productive remainder of the day.